Art History 1, we just finished one of the most exciting and emblematic civilizations in the world, talking about one of the most exciting civilizations, that's Egypt, last week. And now we're starting a new chapter, a new week, perhaps the most important week, this and next week, because this week we will get to talk about Greece. So yes, we do say that Egypt is the foundation of Western art, but it's really because it influences Greece, and Greece is really the foundation. You know what I'm saying? So the Egyptians are the pre-foundation, and this is the actual foundation. But like every foundation, we're going to have to go a little bit before the actual advent of Greek civilization. And when we say we're going before, we're going to go to the Mediterranean. Here's a map of the Mediterranean, and then we're going to go a little bit to the right-hand side of the Mediterranean, Turkey, where the curve of Turkey, where Greece comes down, and that area right to the north of Crete, that is the Aegean Sea, a smaller subsect of the Mediterranean that's been called the Aegean Sea. And this is really the birthplace of Greek culture, okay, of ancient Greek culture. And when we start with that Aegean, we're going to talk about two sets of influences. One of them is Crete, that big island, that big horizontal island there at the bottom, kind of closing the Aegean. And we're also going to talk about mainland Greece, the Greek mainland, as it were. And Greece is a peninsula. It's a peninsula, and it's got its own name. It's called the Peninsula of the Peloponnese. Time out. I just realized. Yes. So it's the Peninsula of the Peloponnese, and right there, in that area between the Peninsula of the Peloponnese, Crete, and also the western shore of Turkey, of what is now Turkey, that is the original area of influence where Greek culture emerges, okay? In Crete itself, we have Minoan culture. The Minoans are in Crete, Minoan. And in Greece, that is the actual peninsula, we have Mycenaean. So these cultures are all going to come together at this time to form, the Greek culture that we know. And what are our references? Where do we know about this very exciting development in the Mediterranean, in the Aegean? In the Mediterranean, it's like a water highway. It's connecting both Asia, North Africa, Europe. All these people take boats and trade in the Mediterranean. So it's a very active place. And what are the reference for both the Crete, for the mainland Greece, for these people? Well, the references come from one of the oldest poems in the world, or at least in the Western world, and that is Homer, the great poet, the great blind poet called Homer, okay? He wrote two books. One is called the Iliad, and the other one is called the Odyssey. And here's where we have the first notices, the sort of narratives of the engagements, the friendships and the wars, the great engagements of the Greek people, right? And these Greek people, for example, the Homer, which is kind of around 700 before Christ, we're talking about a war that occurred even earlier, because the original Iliad is by word. It was a spoken poem. It wasn't written. Later on, it becomes written. So it's narrating. When it gets written, it's the narration of a story that happened a long time before. And basically, it's the war over a woman. People from the Peloponnese traveling over to the shores of Turkey and fighting over a woman, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about what happened before things become cultural before the Iliad of Homer? Well, the first thing we have are Paleolithic, old Stone Age settlements, you know, and later Bronze Age settlements. And we have another archipelago right there. Let's go back to the map. You know, we have a bunch of islands. We have a bunch of islands in the middle, north of Crete, in between, you know, the Peloponnese and Turkey. And those islands are called the Cyclades. The Cyclades Islands. So, you know, here we have this settlement, Cyclades, you know, in the Cyclades Islands. And basically, you have very, very special amorgous figures. Look at that. That looks something from IKEA today. That amorgous figure, just a slight marking to show that she's a female. You know, in her pubic area, the breasts are super, I mean, this is not shapely. This is just super, super streamlined, okay? It's almost like an aesthetic for today, like a modern aesthetic. So that's what was going on. This very striking carved white marble figures, okay? We have that going on in the Cyclades. And what do we have at Crete? At Minoan Crete, we have the palace of King Minos, a powerful ruler, famed in legend. And this is the palace where supposedly the Minotaur was in King Minos' palace, you know? And the Minotaur is a monster, right? He's got the body of a man, but the head of a bull, you know? That's the Minotaur. And basically, there is a palace in Knossos. So here we are, again, Minoan Crete. We are in Minoan, that's the name of the culture. Minoan Crete. And there is a palace called Knossos. And that's the palace of King Minos. And in this palace of King Minos, you know, we have this labyrinth. Minos keeps the Minotaur, half man, half bull, you know, this monster in a labyrinth. And basically, Theseus, King Theseus, he puts the young man, you know, to the test because he wants the king's daughter. He wants Ariadne. He wants Ariadne. So Minos is the king. Minos is king versus Theseus. He would be you, the young student. Ariadne is the king's daughter, right? So he wants her, and he puts him to fight the Minotaur. So he goes into the labyrinth, the famous labyrinth, and you know, Ariadne is worried about her boyfriend. So she gives him a cord so that he doesn't get lost in the labyrinth, that he can pass a way out. In any case, the hero kills the monster and he gets the girl, right? That's how these things go. And so, but just to tell you about the origins of Greek civilization, there's always myths, there's always violence, there's beautiful, beautiful women and beautiful men. Conflict is at the heart of a lot of these legends and myths. And in the case of Minoan Crete and the palace of King Knossos, we also have fresco. What is fresco? Fresco is a technique, one of the oldest techniques in painting, where you mix paint and you apply it to a plaster, to a fresh plaster in the wall. Therefore, when the wall dries, the paint dries with the wall, and thereby it's very solid. It lasts forever. There are some amazing frescoes in what's the remains of the palace of King Minos in Minoan Crete, and dolphins and kind of water life, you know. So it's it was obviously a seafaring culture, a seafaring society. There's also you know, this incredible, you know, woman holding snakes. So maybe it was a more of a peace-loving culture, a female-centric culture, a cosmic mother culture. Look at that woman with her breasts borne out and holding snakes. Okay, and you know, in this culture too, you also have frescoes with bulls. The bull is such an important animal in Near Eastern culture, in Greek culture, in most of all Mediterranean cultures. The bull is the symbol of masculinity, of the power, of the animal world, of so many things. So it's interesting. Minoan culture had prominent females, right, in the murals. So there's like a female-centric energy, perhaps. Then we have the legend of the bull, you know, the Minotaur and the labyrinth, such a cool legend. And then we have this woman holding the snakes. We have all those things. So we went from the Cyclades, the little IKEA figures. We went to Crete, King Minos and the Minotaur. Now we're gonna go to mainland Greece, okay? Now we're going to go to the Peloponnese. We're going to the heartland, okay? The heartland of Greek culture. And here, you know, in the Peninsula, you have Mycenaean Greece, okay? And what's at the mainland? What's in the Peloponnese? There is war. There are settlements surrounded by walls because these people were fighting. There is a war. It's a culture of war, you know, and it's a culture of this kind of architecture. Post and lintel. This is called post and lintel architecture. It's one of the most rudimentary but effective architectures there are. So that's how they would construct things. There is also lions. This probably comes from, you know, Near East, because it's close enough that the influence would travel, right? From the Near East, from Babylon, from Sumerians and such. And we have that. I'm going to show you here some walls from the area, some drawings of what it might have looked like back in the day from your PowerPoint. And I'm also going to show you post and lintel with lions, okay? Post and lintel with lions. So this is basically that culture. And on the depictions, there's always war. So we come from that culture. So that's why we have such celebrations of war in comic books, in songs, in movies. You know, we come from that war culture. And also, most important, before I finish this introduction, this is the culture of mythology, okay? This is a culture of gods. Gods that misbehave and behave like humans. Gods that kill each other for the other person's wife or husband. Gods that kill their children. Gods that kill their parents. Gods that are possessed, okay, with this energy. And, you know, who are the gods? You've heard about them in all these movies. We have Chaos, the great god. We have Gaia, the goddess of earth. We have Tartarus. We have Eros. We have all these gods, Hades, Zeus, all the gods, okay? And it's a very interesting mythology. So from, you know, when we start now talking about actual Greek civilization, these are the pre-Greek civilization. We have Mycenaeans. We also have Cretans from Crete, Minoan Crete, and we also have the little islands, the Cyclades, okay? These are the ingredients that will create Greek civilization.